let's get into it then. Basically, I was a United States soldier. I served my country honorably. I've won multiple awards from Soldier of the Month, Soldier of the Quarter. On this particular day, I was doing a uniform inspection for my soldier PFC Carlisle. On the way home, just like any other day, I mean, I lived like maybe, 2 to 3 miles away from the base. Right. I lived in Quail Run Apartments. And PTSD is...
What city you were in?
Oh, I was in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
I was stationed at Fort Jackson. I worked at Moncrief Hospital.
Gotcha.
And the reason why I say PTSD is real is because when I saw exactly what happened to the lieutenant, it was a straight flashback. I remember saying, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you stopping me?" Almost the same type of conversation, and it being handled in the same way, So
right.
the flashback of that is real, and I was just so angry, and I cried because I felt like, am I doing something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Is this not enough? So back to my story. On the way home, there was a police officer in the neighborhood. No big deal, normal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was following the police officer. Most apartments are shaped like squares or rectangles. You want to say it like that. He was just happening to be driving towards my apartment. I was following him. He makes the roundabout of the parking lot. I acknowledge him by nodding my head. In his police report, he said he felt like I was teasing him by bobbing my head. I don't know what type of training that is. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but where I come from, when you tip your hat or you acknowledge it, it's like saying hello.
Sign of respect.
Right?
Yeah.
So he took that as if I was teasing him. I guess it triggered something in him. I'm not sure if he was having a bad day. I'm not here to speak for him. I'm here to speak for me, right? So I wind up parking my car, getting out my car, walking to the apartment. Now, for me, I'm not trying to put God on nobody. I'm just saying for what I believe in, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that God puts people in the right situation at the right time. Mm-hmm. The police officer wasn't home. The police officer's mother was home. And she happened to be outside watching this whole altercation when it went down. Mm-hmm. So the cop peels off. Naturally, you want to turn around to see what's going on in your neighborhood. So I turn around. He's like, hey, you, come here. I'm like, who, me? He's like, yeah, you, come here. I was like, okay, how can I help you, sir? Right. He said, I'm out here for a noise violation. I said, well, it couldn't have been me, sir. I just got home from work. Okay. Plus, you see, I'm in my military uniform.
Right.
License and registration. Now, mind you, before I got stationed in South Carolina, because I just got stationed there, I was in Germany. I lost my picture license.
Okay.
I graduated high school in Alaska, so I was a resident of Alaska, so Alaska DMV sent me a paper license, which is still a legal document to drive on. It might be a little uncommon, but it's still a legal document, right?
Right.
So when I handed him all my documentation, I handed him the paper license or whatever else, he was like, well, what the hell is this? And I was like, dude, if you just calm down, you can see I'm a soldier. I just got back from Germany. You will not be calling me dude. Address me as dude. I said, well, you address me by hey, you. He said, well, that's because I don't know your name. Well, hell, I don't know your name. Right? That would be anybody's, what I'm saying, reaction or whatever else. Next thing I know, the dude, boom, slams me on the ground, starts welling on me, punching me or whatever else. The police officer's mother, she runs downstairs to get my ex, knocks on the door, gets her to come outside. He's making all these racial statements. Just for your show, I'll add this too, because sometimes you need to be able to show the receipts if you don't have video. So I'll send the internal affairs report where he's answering questions, and he's basically, sometimes when your history allows you to get away with something, you don't fear what you're doing, and you just admit to it because you know there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with all these people who are having these different cases where they're clearly in the wrong, but the color of their skin protects them. Because if we did the exact same thing, or if it was a black officer shooting a white child, he wouldn't be able to say, I fear for my life or anything else, and then be able to get, oh, well, I didn't know this was a gun. Oh, I didn't know I lived in this apartment. We wouldn't be able to say those same things and, walk away or whatever else, right? He makes all these racial comments, how he is saying that I'm nothing but another black statistic. Welcome to the South, how he's glad Johnny Cochran's dead. Johnny Cochran was a famous lawyer or whatever else who passed away. I'm nothing but another notch on his belt. Just all these other racial comments, right? My ex comes out, she sees the situation or whatever else. I tell her I'm okay, calm down. That must have pissed him off because he must have felt like he wasn't in control no more, so he became even more violent. So he took out a whole can of pepper spray and used a whole can of pepper spray on me.
Wow. Same exact thing that happened to dude.
Exactly. Wow. right? And that's why I say it feels kind of like deja vu.
PTSD is real,
you know.
Absolutely.
So when he was living through it and it was happening to him, I felt like I was living through it all over again, watching this brother go through what he was going through because I lived it. And if anybody could understand what he was going through, I feel like it would be me. You know what I mean? We have movies like The Highlander when you're transported into another person's body or whatever else. I just felt all that energy, and I'm not even there. This is just a video of it, but you feel like you're really there, and it's the reality of what's happening to you.
Triggers are real. People need to remember that triggers are real.
And so, while he's beating on me and he's doing all these different things or whatever else, I cover myself with my arm. I take my left arm, I hold my uniform, hands handcuffed right behind my back. I bury my face in my clothes and my uniform. Now, when I did this is me following my military training. So when you're in the military, you have to go to the gas chamber, and that's part of the training before you go to war or whatever else, right? And so you're taught to close your eyes, hold your breath, so that way you won't be affected by the different chemicals, right? So with mace, the way it works is if it gets in your pores or if it gets in your skin, it'll start burning or whatever else. Or if you breathe it in, that's why you see so many people choking or whatever else. But if you close your eyes, you hold your breath, you don't scratch yourself, you still feel a little irritation, but it won't be as bad as a normal person who wouldn't know how to protect themselves.
Right.
So because I protected myself or whatever else, he thought I was on drugs. He accused me of being on drugs, and he became even more violent and started punching me.
Because you're more vigilant, you're on drugs.
No, well, because I didn't react like the normal civilian would. You know what I mean? Right. So, when most people get mazed, we see the reaction.
Fatigues, I feel like that would give you more of an insight as to... But I hear you. I understand the bias.
You could be in army fatigues, but if you can't change your skin color.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get the bias. I understand.
And so when I didn't react the way he thought, he became more violent. Women and children used to came out. I used to take the kids in the neighborhood to the football games. So I was very well known in the neighborhood or whatever else. So you have a group of women and children watching this officer beat me in my military uniform or whatever else. So he gets nervous because people are watching and they're taking pictures. You know what I mean? Videos and social media wasn't as big then as it is now. Right. So they're taking picture. My ex runs in the house, grabs her cell phone, comes like she's taking picture of him. He gets nervous and he gets on the radio and he says whatever the code was, 1032, officer in distress. Now, mind you, I understand protocol because I'm a soldier, right? So I understand why. Right. So I understand why the other officers arrive to the scene the way they arrive to the scene. But I do understand training, and in training you're supposed to assess the scene before you just get out and react or do whatever, right? So they were like, get her, Black, she has pictures of me. So they ran up on my ex, they throw her in the car, they handcuff her. You know how you put your hands behind the head and then they can open you and spread your legs, whatever. She drops the cell phone, they take her arms down or whatever else and they handcuff her. They pick her up by the back of her arms and then they slam her into the ground face first after she was already handcuffed. Now, it's one thing for you to be beaten, right? It's another thing to watch your loved one be beaten in front of you and you're helpless and there's nothing that you can do nothing about it. Because the more you struggle, the more you put both of your lives in danger, And I think that this doesn't get enough attention because sometimes in relationships, as the man, you be like, yo, if something happens, call me. And women be like, no, I'm not going to call you because I know if I call you, something else possibly could happen. Right? But as a man, you feel like, well, I can't protect you if you don't call me. And then it creates a conflict.
It's a paradox. But it's vicious. Exactly. It's a vicious paradox in that sense.
So who's right in the situation? Is the man right for wanting to be there to protect the woman? Or is the woman right for saying, hey, I don't want you to come because I don't want you to get shot and I don't want us to get killed? Exactly. What do you do? And this is what our other counterparts don't have to face. They don't have to deal with these different type of decisions. So in the situation or whatever else, they slam her to the ground. I'm crying out to God. I'm asking if she's okay or whatever else. They call EMS because he used mace on me or whatever else. EMS arrives to the scene. I'm asking, can I get the cell phone? And so he runs over there. He grabs the cell phone because the black cop who lived above us, she finally arrived to the scene. She might as well have not even been a cop.
I'll say might finally arrived.
She might as well not have been a part of the situation because they treated her as if she wasn't one or whatever else. Now, when a female officer arrives to a scene, a female officer is supposed to search a female, pat down a female. Right. And if a male does it, he's supposed to use the back of his hands. So I'm sitting here watching all these dudes frisk her in front of me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Groping her and everything else, and there's nothing I can do, and I have to sit there and watch through this situation. That the that does something different to you,
Right.
mentally, physically, spiritually, as a man. You know, your confidence and everything else, right? So
I mean, it's hard to even hear. So I can imagine you going through it in
Yeah.
real time.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like
yeah,
it's like gut wrenching. Even you know what I'm saying. And I've heard the story. I read the book.
yeah.
And even right now, it's still like just hits me in a different way.
And it's here's the funny thing: when you tell them the truth don't change. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the same thing
Right.
I'm telling you right now is going to be
You said the same
same
story.
You said
in
the
the
same
book.
thing for
Right.
years,
Yeah.
5
Yeah.
years ago, 10 years ago, absolutely.
right. And this happened in 2005, and so for me to get up here and just tell you that just solely shows how real PTSD can really
Right.
be. You know, so to watch that situation, man, is just so degrading, humiliating. You know, EMS arrives to the scene. They put her in the back of a police car. They put me in the back of a police car. I'm asking for the cell phones. He was like, "Well, you can have your cell phone back if you delete the pictures." Why would I have to delete the
Wow.
pictures?
Right.
Deleting
That's wild.
evidence,
Yeah.
right?
Nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So what they did was they went through the phone and they deleted the pictures. You know, they deleted all the pictures that they wanted to delete, and they left the ones that made it seem as if he was doing the right thing. And the crazy thing about it is they admit it. It's in court document. They asked, you know what I mean? You know, why did you delete the pictures and everything? So you're tampering with evidence.
Right.
And at the same time, body cams was real. So you telling me out of all those cop cars that was there that day, none of them
Not
cameras
one.
worked?
Not one, yeah.
You telling me out of all, if body cams are here to protect officers, none of them were on that day? See, it's officers and individuals like Officer Benjamin Fields and Deputy Joseph Clark, that put good officers in bad situations.
Right.
Now, I'm not sitting here saying that all officers are bad. That's ignorance. I have some family members that are SWAT that are officers
Same.
or whatever else. You know what I mean? So this ain't about an officer bashing or anything like that. But this is a way to uplift the officers that do their job the right way. But I
Right.
believe there's a huge difference in being an officer and a bully or a murderer. See, when you're an officer, you follow protocol, you follow training, you do what you're told to do as far as where it goes to the code blue or whatever else, or being an officer, right?
Right.
But when you step outside your training, who are you then? Because they say officers are human too, right? They say officers want to make it home safely too, and all that's true. But I know if I go get a gun or if I go shoot somebody or I go do something that's out of characteristics, there's rules for that.
I feel like bully is a nice way to put it, because what it should be, especially in this day and age, as we've been seeing exemplified more and more, is sadism. But okay, I mean, you know, they're sadists. They're not bullies. They're fucking sadists, because they're openly wanting to see people suffer for their own gratification or pleasure in whatever way it may be, whether it's power, ego boost. I'm not going to go as far as say sexual. I'm not Sigmund Freud here. However, who knows? We don't know.
Right.
But they have this motive to openly go out of their way to go against protocol, to go out of the way to make black people or people of color suffer. Even a couple years ago, remembering how a couple got shot up, over 100, if not 120 shots in a car for two people.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's never necessary. Like, for years, it's been very evident that, you know, to me, I felt the more sharing of certain things is more like snuff films that are more accepted these days.
Yeah, and on that line, I'll take it a step further. Like, I feel like the word bully isn't even good enough. They're terrorists, is what they are. They're
There's that
domestic
as well,
terrorists,
yeah.
is what they're doing.
I mean, and I'll let you continue, but to speak to your point, I just wanted to tap into something real quick on this. All cops aren't bad thing. Like, I have my play uncle that I grew up with literally since the day I was born, all the way up until 2008, where he became the first SWAT officer that was killed in the line of duty.
Wow.
So I have like very, very close relationships coming up, with police officers. But my thing is, the ones that we claim or say like, oh, like all cops aren't bad, they have like this unwritten code to where, like, if you're out with your officer, with your partner, and they do something that's out of bounds, and you go and report that, which by law they're supposed to do, but if they do, it's like you're like the
Snitches.
It's like
weasel of the
treason
whole-
about that.
Right.
Like treason about the police
So it's like,
department.
where do we even begin to address something like that that's supposed to be in place to protect us, but yet there's still like this, all cops aren't bad, but it's like, are you really a good cop if you watching stuff like that go down and you don't speak on it, or you don't stand up for it, to
Like
where
complacent
it
cops are bad.
led to a situation such as like Christopher Dorner, to where he watched it for so many years that He just couldn't take it anymore, and that exact scenario happened with him. By the way, he
Right.
reported something that was out of line with a partner of his, and he was the one that got fired and outcasted.
Right. And that's why the cycle continues. You know what I mean? It's like a hamster wheel. And that's why I say personally, if there are no laws put in place to change that, it's going to continue to happen. We're not talking about nothing new. Right. Honestly, I'm not the first. I'm not the last, as you can see.
Right.
But going through this process while I'm here, I know that so many people sacrificed their life for me to have the comfortability and the freedoms that I have today. Right. So I don't want their sacrifices to go in vain. And I have boys, and I don't want them to be up here telling the same story that I'm telling in their future. Right. When do we stop this for the lineage to change? When do we have to finally stand up to make a difference? You know what I mean?
Right.
Put our monies together to get different laws changed, because you got to buy, in my opinion, I think you have to buy laws. You know what I'm saying? Right. I think we have to unite to create different changes. And I do want to throw this out there. You know, might think it might be random, but I think it's a perfect fit for what we're talking about right now. Ice Cube, you know, came up with a plan. And I don't know if the plan was the right thing or if it was the wrong thing, but he came up with something. Right. Right. How many people sat on the sideline and talked so much trash, but they weren't willing to try to do anything? I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't agree with his plan, come up with your own proposals, come up with your own thoughts, come up with your own rules. But if every time we try to do something different, if we sit back and just judge it, then we'll never be able to unite to create the change that we want.
And didn't you say the community owes Ice Cube an apology?
Hell yeah.
He just said that.
And I mean, you got to think about it. Look how long Ice Cube has been fighting for change. You know what I mean?
Before I was born.
Yeah, you know, even from the music that he talked about. Right. You know what I'm saying? Even in his lyrics, you know, I want to also shout out like a Colin Kaepernick. He put his whole career on the line and got blackballed. The man will never play football again. Right. Will we ever see another Colin Kaepernick? Will we ever see another black player take a knee in the same fashion? Or was that more of the I bet you won't do it again, boy?
Right. Right.
I dare you. You know, you had an NFL commissioner owner come out and say, "But we can't let the inmates run the prison." You got to look at people's mindset and the things that people say. You know what I mean? I want to shout out to Michael B. Jordan for wanting to do Fruitvale Station and taking a chance to tell the truth. I want to shout out the people from Ballers that allowed me to have a book signing on set. But I think it was like season 4, episode 10, they did a Colin Kaepernick situation where they're talking about players speaking up about this same thing right here. Right. I think we are in a momentum and a wave of change right now. Right. And if we don't capitalize, let me back that up. If we don't come together to capitalize on what's happening, then the change will miss out on it. You know what I mean? Nipsey Hussle, shout out to him. He had a slogan that says the marathon continues. Now, I have nothing but respect for Nipsey, and I understand why his slogan is his slogan, but it bothers me because the truth behind the slogan is it's only a marathon if one person is running the race. Mm-hmm. How much faster will we get to our goal if we all united to run that race together? But it's hard to run that race together because we're so busy pulling each other back in certain situations. I don't know if it's because of Jim Crow. I don't know if it's because of the Willie Lynch letter. I don't know if it's because we just don't get it yet.
Internalized hate that comes from societal biases that come up, the perpetuations of what we should or what we're expected to be. That can be internalized after a time as well, which could factor into what you're saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I think the choices that we make today do affect tomorrow, you know, and I do think that, hey, you don't have to agree with someone else's plan. That's okay. Just come up with one. Don't just be the person in the peanut gallery throwing hate and throwing salt.
Or don't say nothing if you don't have nothing to contribute to.
Right. Exactly.
Step back and let the people who are willing and able or in the space to fight for that if you are not able to be in that space. Because myself, I'm not always in the space to be protesting and doing certain things. Right. But I know for a fact that I'm not going to speak ill in any negative way on things that I'm not even making an effort to do. I'm not going to speak on what I don't know, what I'm not struggling with.
Right.
I can just factor in the fact that this isn't something that I have put my foot in. Mm-hmm. Even with the election. When Donald Trump got elected, I didn't vote. My ex is big into political science. So I got a lot of slack for that. Like a lot of hell for that. But at the same time, it's like, all right, well, I know that within these next 4 years, I can't say too much of anything to a certain extent because I didn't play my part as a civilian to make a difference or put my word in. That's how I feel about it. Like, let me step back. I can't say that
But I
he's
think
such a
you did,
terrible
though.
person. What'd you say?
I think you did play your part.
Okay.
And the reason why I say
And I
that
appreciate
is
that aspect.
because, you know, it's your right to choose. Right. And if there's not a candidate that you want, why would you pick the lesser of what they say, two evils? Right. Why would you pick? You know what I mean? So I feel like there's more than one way to protest. You don't always just have to march. There's more than one way to make a change. But as long as you're working towards the change instead of hating against what we're trying to change, I think that's what makes the difference.
And I feel like that's the disconnect with a lot of people, is that they're not trying to make a difference, as we're saying. They're not trying to do any work, yet right. They want to have so much to say about people doing the work. Like, wait, but either you do it or you don't, and you sit back and let the people who are trying to do something. Or like you said, you come up with a better alternative that better suits what you're looking for to see reflected in society, period.
Right.